Hello everyone. Today we're going to be looking at the literary device called symbolism. And as you can see, symbolism can be broken down into symbols. So symbol is forms part of the word. So you know we're talking about symbols. But what is symbolism? Symbolism is a literary device that uses symbols to represent ideas, qualities, or concepts which go beyond their literal meaning. That's right. So a symbol is going to be an abstraction, okay? Which would be ideas, qualities, or concepts. But then the next question is going to be what can be a symbol? We're going to get to that. But right now, this is the definition that we're going to go with. So symbolism involves the use of symbols to represent ideas, qualities, or concepts which go beyond their literal meaning. Okay? So hold that in mind. Why do we use symbolism? It allows writers to convey deeper meanings and add complexity, right? So if we have a shirt, that's a thing. I mean, well, it's an item of clothing, but yeah, in essence, a thing. What is it? It is a shirt. But that shirt can actually represent something greater depending on how it is used within the story or within the context, right? And in that case, the shirt can symbolize whatever, right? So we have transcended the literal meaning, and we are attributing a deeper or a greater meaning to the chair. Not the chair, the shirt, right? But once again, I think you'll understand that a little better once we get to the third part, right? What can constitute a symbol? Symbols can take several forms: objects, actions, or characters. These are just three, because there are many more examples. These entities will have a meaning that is much deeper than their immediate presence in the story. Yes. So we're talking about entities, anything with an independent existence. That could be a person or a thing, okay? And that entity is going to take on, or is going to represent, an abstraction. That could be an idea, a concept, an emotion, what have you, right? But it's going to be used to represent something more significant. Like I gave you the example earlier with the shirt. A shirt, we use a shirt to cover our upper body, but that shirt can have a much deeper meaning depending on the context or depending on how it is used in the story. The shirt could be a symbol of poverty if it's in very bad if the shirt is in a very bad condition, right? Or if the shirt is of poor quality, it could be used as a symbol of poverty. Okay? It could be a symbol of kindness. Let's say if it is given to someone as a gift. So it really depends on how it is used, okay? So let's look at an example. An example of a universal symbol includes a white dove, which symbolizes peace and purity, right? So a white dove, which is a bird, it's not just a bird, it is a symbol of purity and peace. And I say universal because this is the interpretation across various contexts, right? The color white in itself is often used to symbolize innocence and purity. For example, the dress which is worn by the bride at wedding ceremonies, is white. because white symbolizes purity, right? But of course, in another context, or in a more specific context, a white dove could have a different meaning, okay? So that means that there is a great deal of subjectivity that can arise when we are talking about symbolism, okay? Subjectivity. I say subjectivity, but pay attention. There must be a clear correlation between the entity and the symbol. What I mean is that you can't just say that the wall is a symbol of blah, 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 whatever, and you're unable to identify the connection, or other persons are unable to identify the connection or the link. It does not work like that. The link must be clear. There is a degree of subjectivity because as human beings, we do not think the same. We do not think in the same way. So there has to be room for other interpretations, but the correlation must be visible, okay? Another example, Batman. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the character Batman. His parents were killed when he was young, and he became the physical embodiment of his fear, right? He feared bats, so he dressed as a bat to project that fear onto criminals or to induce fear. Okay? You can say that Batman is a symbol of fear, yes, because he actually became the physical embodiment of it, yes, you can say that. But in this context, or just for the sake of this example, I chose to focus on Batman as a symbol of hope. And why is that? Because he's a man who wanted to improve his society, so he took matters into his own hands. As a symbol, Batman can inspire persons who would like to see immediate change. That's right. If a person wants to see change in their society, in his or her society, we can use Batman to inspire them, because Batman is a vigilante, so he operates outside of the law, but he's experienced an injustice and he vowed to protect his city. He did not want anyone else to have to experience what he experienced. Okay? So in that context, or in that sense, he can be seen as a symbol of hope, right? And you can even say inspiration, because he can be looked at as let's say a role model, right? And he can inspire other vigilantes or other persons that would want to see change, right? We can also say that he's a symbol of justice. All right, so there are many different interpretations, but as long as there's a correlation between the entity and the symbol, of course, right? Or the idea. Secondly, the wreckage of Flight 571, which crashed in the Andes, could symbolize survival, as it was used as shelter or protection for 72 days in the mountains. If you're not familiar with this story, this is actually a real event that took place. So a rugby team comprising various youngsters or adolescents. It was a Uruguayan rugby team, and the team was traveling from Uruguay to Chile to play a match, right? And unfortunately, the plane crashed in the Andes mountain, and they were trapped there trapped there under adverse weather conditions because it was snowing very cold during the winter, and they sought refuge within the plane, the wreckage of the plane, right? So they stayed there for the for the length of time they were trapped down there. So we can say that wreckage represent not only is it a physical representation of a reminder of the tragedy, but it can also symbolize survival because they use that as shelter, right? That's right. I just need to give you some details so that you can understand the context. And the stories, well, the movie based on the real story is called La Sociedad de la Nieve. It's actually on Netflix right now. And yes, it's in Spanish because the original victims, or not the original, but the victims were from Uruguay, so they spoke Spanish as a first language, right? All right. So yeah, I could give you another example. This whiteboard, this is a whiteboard. It's used to record information, but this whiteboard can be a symbol of inspiration. Let me explain. Because this is a tool I use to transmit my knowledge to you and to inspire you to maybe film content as well or create content as well. All right. So that is in essence what symbolism does. We take an entity and we attribute a greater meaning to it. So that entity can be used to represent something else, whether that be, and that something else is usually an abstraction, an idea, a quality, or a concept. All right. So this brings us to the end of this lesson on symbolism. I hope that you were able to understand everything. Thanks for watching and see you next time.